Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Step forward.
Welcome to the Thursday, October 10th, 2024 meeting of the Tompkins County Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. We have our Vice Chair, Shauna Black, and Member Lee Shurtleff, and myself here. Deborah Dawson is excused, and we are expecting Rich John. But we do have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and let's do the minutes of September 12th. Moved by Shauna, seconded by Lee. Is there any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Are there any changes to the agenda today? I see there is a revised resolution from the Director of Finance on the bond resolution later in the agenda. It's on our desks. Do we have any comments from members of the public this morning? Brittany? Brittany has none on Zoom. Okay, that brings us to one of our favorite topics, Tompkins Cortland Community College, and we have a wonderful turnout from the college this morning. And the chair of the TC3 board, Judy Davison, is here. Do you want to start on that topic, or do you want us to start on the topic of the resolution for the capital money? Okay. Please join us at some microphones. Amy Kremenek, the president of the college, is here. And we have a resolution to consider authorizing the 2024-2025 capital improvements for Tompkins Cortland Community College. That's ID 12762. Can we get that on the table? By Lee, seconded by Shauna. And I think Amy's going to, and her crew, oh, there's Shelley Michelle Nunn, too, from another trustee.
Good morning, everyone, and
well, good morning. Welcome.
thank you for having us this morning. I'd like to introduce our group.
Please.
Starting at the far left is Dennis Paganitis. Dennis is the Vice President of Finance and also the Chief Financial Officer for the college. Seated next to him is Shelley Michelle Nunn, Board Trustee and County Appointee from Tompkins County. Seated to her right is Roxanne Buck, also Tompkins County appointee to the college's board, and also our representative to the New York Community College Trustees Association. Judy Davison is right here to my immediate left. She is the board chair and an appointee of Cortland County. And then to my right is John Gear, the Vice President of Administration, who also oversees facilities.
Well, we're pleased to have all of you here this morning. Would you like to talk to us about the request for funding?
I will begin, and then I will turn it over to Dennis and to John,
right.
As well as our trustees. So we have before you a request for funding for some facilities needs on the college's campus. We have done some very significant work over the years with the support of the county, Tompkins County certainly, and also Cortland County in the state. But our campus is 50 years old this year. And in fact, we're going to be celebrating our 50th birthday here in just a couple of weeks.
We've heard that, and congratulations. We understand there's going to be an event.
There is. There'll be a birthday party, if you will, for our Dryden campus. But our campus is showing its age. Certainly the needs of higher education has changed over the years, and we've done our best to really be good stewards of the resources that we have been able to secure, but those needs continue. And so our request is for funds for deferred maintenance, and I'm going to have Dennis and John speak to that in just a moment, as well as a facilities master plan, which the college has not had for quite some time. There was, I think, a period of building on our campus where there was a plan, but it's been at least probably about a decade since we've had a facilities master plan. So the board approved at last month's board meeting to secure services from CNS Companies, who has a very good reputation for public projects, as well as working closely with higher education. And so we would like to proceed with them as our developer for the Facilities Master Plan. And we also intend that we would work very, very closely with our county sponsors on this, because certainly there's interest there as well, I'm sure. And then finally, we have a request for paving. While we are up on a hill, what I've learned in my 2 years at the college is that water is not our friend. So we have some pretty significant needs for paving in our parking lots, as well as some of our sidewalks that is creating some issues, particularly for students with some mobility issues. So I'll ask Dennis and John to provide some additional details.
Hello.
Good morning.
We came in for this request a little bit late this year. We had some turnover in the financial areas. We met with the office of the county administrator, and we identified some funds that potentially could be available from this county. We also met with Cortland County. We agreed in some projects. The projects have been described by the president. We have a deferred maintenance project for about $500,000. I can list you. There is a lot of small sub-projects there. There is boilers. There is 8 air conditioning units, rooftop units for the whole building, and some other inside maintenance, deferred maintenance projects. Also, we have we're funding our facilities master plan through this funding, and finally, we're going to pave 1 full parking lot out of the 6 that we have in front of our college, plus a very significant portion of our sidewalk that takes us from the our housing areas to the main college. Based on all that, I want to give you a total number, as you have seen it in your resolution and your information. The total number of this request for all 3, we get funded from Tompkins and Cortland counties. Tompkins participates with 62%, Cortland with 38%, and this is being matched by SUNY, by the state. So the total request for all those projects is $806,000. The state is participating with about $403,000. Tompkins County in this request is contributing $250,000, and Cortland County $153,000. So if you have any questions, or if John wants to add something on all those.
No, I would just like to add, based off what Amy had stated and Dennis had followed up on, particularly on the deferred maintenance projects. I apologize.
About 6 inches from the microphone.
Right. Sorry. Basically, with the deferred maintenance projects, as Amy has stated, our building is coming up on 50 years old. So as a facilities department, we've identified some of our high priority needs, of things that have gone without for a number of years, that are really reached their ends of life, or things that are in drastic needs of replacement.
Okay, shall we open it up for questions? Rich John has joined us.
Thanks for coming in. I am curious, though, about the parking lots. I've been out there, and certainly they need work. Do you have times a day when they're all full?
There was certainly a time when the college's enrollment was at its peak, where every day they were full, and as I understand it, we also had students parking on the grass. In recent years, as our enrollment has changed, we don't have that on a daily basis.
Okay.
When we do have that is when we host events. So, for example, we host graduation events for various high schools, for BOCES, and also for state and regional sports events, and then you'll see full parking lots.
Okay. I was going to ask about whether any could be decommissioned, but I'll wander off in other areas.
Yeah. You know, that's a possibility as we look to the future. The proposal today is for one parking lot. We have 6, but for one parking lot, the one that is most used and is closest to campus, the main building.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you need them. I'm curious, when you're doing the resurfacing, are you thinking about using the new kind of permeable system? Well, not that new anymore. Permeable systems for drainage?
I'm not certain if I'm aware of what the permeable system is.
It's basically you use larger aggregate stone, and so the water just drains through.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that we could look into that if it hasn't been a consideration.
Okay, thanks.
I would guess that probably that would require a full reconstruction of the parking lot to change it to a permeable surface rather than just a resurfacing.
I think that's true. What are you planning to do? Is this just resurfacing?
Just to resurface.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Shauna.
I just want to say thank you for keeping up on the capital improvements. I know in the community college world, it is extremely competitive, and many young people come to a school, and initially it's not necessarily about the academics that are being offered, but how pretty the campus is. So I think the more that we can invest in this community college, the more appealing it becomes to outsiders. I know my daughter graduated 2 years ago, and it was awesome to see that TC3 was their first choice. And I think we're seeing more and more of that. There's definitely an excitement in our community about the great things that are happening there, the programs, the certificates, and I'm happy to bring that back to you.
Thank you, Shauna. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about enrollment just briefly. Right now, we're up about 6.5% for fall. So we're seeing increasing numbers of young people as well as adults who are returning to school, in some cases part-time.
Great. Other questions, comments? Lee?
Just to the financing, and is this planned on our side, or I see it's coming out of contingency?
They didn't, for 2 or 3 years, Tompkins County has given them, $200,000 or $300,000 in additional funding through an over target, but this time, I think because of the timing, it was being requested as a contingency. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yeah, for 2024, this is, well, Norma is on and can speak.
Hi, Norma. Can't hear you.
I have to unmute so you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. I had 2 things, but yes. So when, as Dennis said, the financial folks are relatively new to the positions that they're in. The county the county legislature approved the TC3 budget kind of early in the process. So they were not able, we're not kind of part of the regular budget cycle as others have been. So when Dennis came and asked about this, we recommended that he come in with a resolution, or they come in with a resolution to the legislature in this way. Next year, we have an understanding of kind of how this will work, and we'll move forward with any other requests through the regular budget process. Could I ask my second question, Mike? Dennis and I had, when we talked, we also talked about the CDL, using one of the parking lots as a CDL. I don't think this particular resolution would make that possible, but I just wanted to bring that up, that we have had that conversation about whether or not, once these repairs are done, whether we could revisit the idea that they might be able to allow for CDL trainings at TC3.
That's a good question, Norma. Are you folks open to discuss that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's great news. We've been looking for a parking lot for several years. Lee?
And just the second question, Cortland is prepared and ready to go along with as well.
Go ahead.
Yes, we have had conversations with them, and they will participate into this program.
Anything else? Can we go ahead and vote? Since Deborah's not on the screen, I think we can do it by hands. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, so that'll be sent to the full legislature for approval.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Judy, did you want to talk to us about this SUNY issue?
Yeah, we recently have been advised by the chancellor that he's looking to change the way presidents are hired for the colleges and many responsibilities that he has charged back to himself rather than the Board of Trustees. The education law that we were put together under gives the trustees of the college the responsibility of hiring the president, of setting goals with the president, evaluating the president annually, and entering into contract with the president about their conditions of employment. These are all things now that he wants to bring back to roost as his responsibility. So he wants the responsibility, although he's saying he's backing down a little on wanting the responsibility for evaluating them. It seems to us like he just wants to go forward and take on all this responsibility himself. He's also the chancellor for the four-year colleges. The four-year colleges are very different from the way we were put together. They don't have boards of trustees. They answer directly to the chancellor. Our folks do not. And evaluation, everything, he has his hands in the hiring of the presidents.
He wants to.
Well, of the presidents of the 4 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And now he wants that responsibility for the presidents of hiring the presidents of the community colleges. We have been asked by our statewide association to support a resolution, and they're in the process of collecting those resolutions from the boards of the trustees of all the community colleges in the state. And they're going to batch send them on behalf of the boards of trustees of all the community colleges, indicating that we are not in agreement with anything that has been suggested that we must follow. All of a sudden, when we have a piece of legislation, and I believe you all should have now gotten a copy of that legislation that authorizes the boards of trustees for the community colleges, what our responsibilities are, what our county sponsors' responsibilities are, what the president's responsible for, et cetera. And what he's proposing is totally against what's in that piece of legislation. So we, at our last board meeting, proposed and adopted a resolution to send back to NYCCT that will be presented in batch for all the community colleges across the state, so that, hoping that the impact that all of those colleges will support what the association has presented to us as a sample of what they thought would be an adequate response from us. We're hoping it will be. I'm going to look to Roxanne, who just recently came back from the annual association meeting. And we were kind of waiting for some feedback from those folks before we really had a good handle on tell you folks how you might best be in a position to help us out.
Want me to
Yeah,
jump in?
Go ahead, jump in.
So this past weekend was the annual conference for community college trustees. And this was obviously a topic of great discussion with the chancellor being there for part of the conference. I would just add to what Judy was mentioning about the selection of presidents. What happens now is, we have a search committee, we narrow it down, we generally have brought 2 or 3 individuals to campus for day-long interviews with everybody. And in that process, there's always one person who rises to, the top of the group and the one that we wish to hire. What the chancellor is suggesting the change would be is that we would submit 3 names to him, and he would get back to us on which one of the 3 we should be hiring. Having been involved in a couple of different presidential searches, there's never 3 similarly adequate candidates. That's just not the way it goes. There's always just one. And to leave that to his discretion is just totally incomprehensible in my book, but, against education law and everything else. He also wants to review the contract that we would ultimately present to that candidate upon hire and make any changes that he thinks should be made to that contract. And he wants to see subsequent amendments to that contract. So if you amend the contract on an annual basis or every 3 or 5 years, whatever it is, he wants to review those changes as well. And I think education law is very clear that our presidents report to the Board of Trustees. They do not report to the chancellor. So as Judy said, our board passed a resolution at last month's meeting, what the State Association for Trustees is asking in addition to that is that county sponsors consider a letter, a resolution, whatever people are perhaps comfortable with, that would basically support, the status quo in the hiring of presidents and the evaluation of presidents. And I do have a copy, if you'd like to make some copies and have it. Genesee County Legislature passed, they didn't do a resolution yet, they've done a letter that they sent to the chancellor, signed by all the legislators, basically saying, you're out of order, this is up to the local community college to do these things.
Roxanne, we actually have worked on a draft of a resolution like that. We haven't brought it forward yet.
Okay.
But I'd be glad to look at what other counties have done too.
Yeah, Genesee is the only one I have, but I'd be happy to share that with you.
Thanks. So I've got a couple of questions here. Can we take them? Shauna?
So this is absolutely mind-blowing. I think I don't know if the word's interesting, but how we continue to receive fewer and fewer funds from the state, more local contribution, which I will never complain about. However, they want more power and oversight over the decisions that we make locally. And this also leads me to think that once you provide 3 candidates and then one person chooses the candidate, it becomes a political appointment, which is the thing that we've never wanted to, the one attribute that we've never wanted to have in our academic setting. So I'm happy to work on the resolution, Mike, and if you're all right with it, we can submit it Tuesday in our meeting and do it as a member filed.
We're going to be sending it to what, NCCT to collect, or what's happening?
I think the suggestion would be to send it to NYCCT, which is the Association of Trustees, but there's no harm in submitting it directly to the chancellor. Genesee County told me that they did send it directly to the chancellor as well, with a read receipt and a request that he acknowledge receipt of it. And as of a week later, having sent that, they had not yet received any kind of acknowledgement. But Shawnee, you hit the nail on the head. That's what everybody's afraid of.
So I know Katrina has worked on it, so we'll send that out, and if we can get it ready, we can maybe we can add it to the agenda on Tuesday.
Great.
Rich, you had a question.
Yes, thanks. You know, reflexively, I respond to this going, what in the world? And I'll preface my remarks to say that I've always been satisfied with the management we've had at TC3. I think we've had good, competent leadership consistently over the many years I've been on the legislature. But I'm just really curious. This seems like a really big fight for the chancellor to pick. And are you aware, have there been some really spectacularly poor choices made by some of the community colleges across the state? I'm trying to, if you could channel the chancellor's inner mind here, why do this? Is it just a control thing, or is there a significant problem at other schools that has led in this direction?
I'm not aware of significant challenges at any community college. You know, sometimes it doesn't work out, and, you know, they've had to make some tough decisions. It's our consensus as the group of trustees that it's a power issue, and he wants to have more control, yet less money, for the community colleges as well. I mean, we are providing more than half of his enrollment through SUNY. So, you know, we're a significant part of the SUNY family.
What is he saying, though?
Well, he's not saying it's a power thing, of course.
What is he saying?
I don't know that he's given a real rationale for it. The only thing he's given a rationale for is reviewing the contracts, and, you know, he wants to be sure that, you know, trustees aren't putting bizarre things into their presidential contracts. And, you know, I'm not aware that that's happened, so I'm not sure why he is anticipating it. I will say, those of us that have been around a while, Mike, you may remember this, but the previous chancellor, Nancy Zimpher, and she came into the chancellor position more than 15 years ago, but I can't tell you exactly the year. She came to one of our conferences of trustees, and she presented the same notions that she was going to evaluate our presidents. And I say she was lucky to get out of the room alive. That did not go over well. We fought very hard against that, and she finally backed off. And so when it was presented to Chancellor King that we had these discussions with Nancy Zimpher, he said, well, you can't hold me to something that Nancy Zimpher decided.
Well, I think that's true, you know, but I come back to, why would he pick this fight? It just seems, there must be some reason somewhere, but we don't know what it is.
They only cited really two incidents where there were problems with contracts. One that they thought was someone who was let go, and the package they got when they left was egregiously generous. That was one thing. I can't quite remember what the other one was.
That's the only one I heard about. And
just two, and they were both kind of bizarre, and thought, you know, they could have been handled internally and straightened out with advice on contracting.
There's another issue behind the scenes here as well, and I think it's intertwined with this. Again, when Nancy Zimpher came in, the Office for Community Colleges at SUNY was vacated. She didn't get along with the person that was there. And she, at that point, had no intention of backfilling that position and having a vice chancellor for community colleges. And again, that was a fight that we fought, hard. She reinstituted that office. Johanna Duncan-Portier was hired into that role. Johanna retired at the end of September. And there has not been even a search committee put in place to replace Johanna, even though we've known for months that she's leaving. So I think, and maybe I'm being too suspicious, but I think, behind all of this is a desire for the chancellor to have more control by not filling that office and having someone who directly, works with us, and, have more fingers in the pie with regard to our presidents.
Well, we certainly appreciate knowing about this, and that we just got handed out the resolution that we were working on here before, so we don't have very much to do to get a resolution out. I can understand the chancellor being involved with the presidents of SUNY because the state pays that. The state isn't even keeping up its 1/3 for the 3 county or the community colleges, which is supposed to be student counties and state. It just looks to me like another example of trying to control things and not pay for it. It's sort of like an unfunded mandate in that sense, and we're well aware of those. I thank you for bringing this to our attention. Lee, go ahead.
Question back to Shauna. Is this something that NISAC, you might want to run by the association there, because certainly it affects a lot of counties?
Yeah, I can write Steve Aquario.
And Shauna, just know that our association is also working with NISAC on that, so that the word gets out to the counties as well. As one of our trustees said directly to the chancellor last year, and he reiterated it this year, we're just not feeling the love.
Well, we don't want to have our hand bit either, so.
And I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but Mike, could I just have a moment to tell a brief story? One of the things we do at our conference is we have an awards banquet. And this year, TC3's nominee for an alumni award for professional development was the winner of one of those awards. And it just really speaks to, what community colleges, and specifically in this instance, TC3 can do for people. This is a woman who was living in California in deplorable situations, nothing that you would wish on anyone. And in her 40s, she moved to Ithaca to be near a sister. Sister suggested she take a look at TC3, and in her words, she said, I just didn't know if I could pass a class. I was just, I didn't know if I was smart enough. She had all this apprehension, but she enrolled. She graduated from TC3 with a 4.0.
Oh.
She transferred to RIT, graduated with a 4.0. And she's running a successful business here in Ithaca and is doing extremely well. And in her words, if it were not for TC3, Lord knows where she would be. It really turned her life around. And, we hear these stories frequently, and, there's thousands of them out there, but this woman, as she told her story to this group, got the only standing ovation of the night, and I think there were no dry eyes in the room when she got finished telling her story. That's how compelling it was. So I just wanted you to know that, one of our own, was honored, and rightfully so.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us very much. Anything else from the committee? Thank you all for taking your time to come to visit us this morning, and I think we've done some good work already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee, how much longer are you here for us? Okay. Are there any particular resolutions you want to speak to?
I'll look.
All right. Lee's going to have to leave, so I'd like to move down to the resolutions and take them up before we have the reports. So see if we can get through some of them before he leaves. Wait till Lee comes back.
Can move in second. We'll get
All
on the
right,
floor.
so let's take the first resolution A, creation of positions, Department of Social Services, Shelter Operations and Oversight, Temporary Assistance Division. Rich is moving it. Is there a second? Seconded by Shauna. Who's going to talk to us about this, if we need it? I think we know about the positions. We talked about them in budget, so.
I can speak to it, and Kit is also online.
All
But
right.
Hello,
Kit.
This is to cover for the remainder of 2024. It's actually the creation of the positions, and they can cover the expense in 2024. But in 2025, you've already acted on this during the expanded budget committee meetings.
Questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Next one is renewal of engagements for legal services with Romer, Wallens, Gold, and Minnow. Is it Minnow? Minnow, LLP. That's our labor attorneys. Been moved by Lee, seconded by Rich. Who wants to talk about that one?
I can address it.
Go ahead, Maury.
The county has two engagements with Romer Wallens, one for labor relations, which is a longstanding, decades-old engagement, and the other for litigation, which is more recent. They both expire at the end of this year. We asked Romer to provide renewal agreements, which they have. The terms provide for very modest increases in rates, and we would like to continue with them. It's it's a very long-standing, professional, confidential relationship. As part of our reworking of procurement policies, we want to be very clear in documenting the reasons why some contracts are not in the interest of the county to bid or quote. Romer Wallens as an example of one, because they are deeply embedded in our legal and HR functions, and based on work we did when we were doing the litigation engagement, their rates are very favorable as well. So that's why we've brought the resolution forward to renew both engagements.
Questions? Ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Resolution of the County of Tompkins declaring official intent to reimburse the original expenditure with the proceeds of tax-exempt indebtedness in accordance with Treasury Regulation Section 1.150-2. So I want to move that. Moved by Rich, seconded by Shauna. Lori, I think we do these, we started doing these 2 or 3 years ago to prove that the bonds we issue are tax exempt. Is that what we do?
Yes, so in your packet, there's several bond resolutions. 3 of them are for reimbursement of expenditures. So we're not bonding any of those this year, but what it will allow us to do is in the future, should we bond, we can then reimburse ourselves from that bond if we wish with expenditures that we may be incurring now. If we don't do these 3 resolutions for reimbursement, we cannot ever get recoupment of those expenses using bond proceeds. So those are those 3. The rest of them are all in anticipation of potential bonding. It does not commit us to actually doing the bond. It's just getting our ducks in a row so that if we wish to bond, we may do so in February when we will be renewing the ban that is currently in place.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on this one? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Resolution of the County of Tompkins declaring official intent to reimburse an original expenditure with proceeds of tax-exempt indebtedness in accordance with Treasury Regulations Section 1.150-2. This is for the public safety building. Someone want to move that? Lee, seconded by Rich. Any discussion? Rich?
Yeah, we're not thinking about starting this project for 2 years. So why are we doing this now?
So again, this is another reimbursement bond resolution. So if we incur any expenditures on this project at all, and if we wish in the future to reimburse ourselves with bond proceeds for those, it just allows us to do so.
So that's why the big number is in there. Okay.
Lee?
This would obviously cover the $1 million we're setting aside in the 2025 budget toward the possible design or preliminary work. Is that correct? You're anticipating that as funding that we could be able to recoup. I see Norma nodding her head on there.
Right. If we wish to do that, this will allow us to do that, yes.
Thanks, Norma. Okay, we ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. We go to, I'm watching here which one we have to change for the revised one. Resolution E, a bond resolution authorizing the issuance of up to 1.2 million serial bonds and notes of the County of Tompkins to pay a portion of the cost of road and highway system reconstruction and improvement at various locations throughout the county. Someone want to move it? Rich, seconded by Shauna. Discussions about this one.
Is this the change to 1.7?
Not this one.
This is
Not this one. It's a different one, right? Kind of. That's 12793, which is the next to the last resolution we've got.
1.2, 1.7.
Huh?
1.2, 1.7, they look similar.
Yeah, well, I was just looking until I finally found the number up here on the resolution. Someone want to, any questions on this one, Shauna?
No.
Want to vote? Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried unanimously. Now we're to F, resolution of the County of Tompkins declaring official intent to reimburse an original expenditure with proceeds of the tax-exempt indebtedness in accordance with the Treasury Regulation 1.150-2, and that's ID 12791. Motion? Donna? Seconded by Lee. Any discussion? Rich?
Yeah, in the whereas, it says the cost will be approximately 40 million, and then lower down it says 8.2 million.
So this is the planned use of to build an emergency shelter. And I believe on the PAR, and maybe Norma can step in, the PAR has the total cost of the project at 40 million, but the bonding portion at 8.2, I believe.
Norma, are you there, or have you stepped away?
I'm here. I just thought Lisa was going to respond.
Yeah, the total cost of the project, we estimate around 8 million. I'm not sure where, yeah.
Okay, if it's 8.2 million, then that whereas should be 8.2 million, and we can get that amended.
I wonder if it was just a carryover from another nearby project.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have that correction.
Look at all the money I saved the county. Boy.
Did it come out of fund balance? All in favor? That's unanimous. Now we're down to G, bond resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $1,066,425 in serial bonds and notes of the County of Tompkins to pay a portion of the cost of reconstruction and improvements at certain county-owned landfills. Someone want to move that one? Moved by Rich, seconded by Shauna. Talking about throwing away money here. Any discussion on this one? Go ahead, Lori.
I'd just like to add that this one will be dependent on having the seeker completed before this actually goes through the full legislature. So this one may or may not be on the next legislature. It may be the following legislature meeting. So just so you know, there may be some delay in this one.
Okay. Shall we vote? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Now this one, the next one is the one we have the revised copy on our desk. A bond resolution authorizing the issuance of 1.7 million serial bonds and notes of the County of Tompkins to acquire certain machinery and apparatus for construction and maintenance. Someone want to move it? Rich, seconded by Shauna. Discussion on this one.
Procedural question.
Go ahead.
Are all of these anticipated in budgets moving forward in some manner?
So they are not necessarily pegged as a bonding, or at least not the total amount. It's dependent on other factors as we continue through the budget process. But if it is decided that we want to bond, we have to have these bond resolutions in place again, so that to hit the February goal of when we're doing our renewal of our ban, we'd have to have these in place. We can pass all these and never use them. We can pull them and never use them. It's just so that if we do go down that road, we need to have them ready.
So we wouldn't be able to link to anything that we're working on budget documents at this point. The numbers aren't going to necessarily reflect
Correct.
some of what we've been debating prior to
Correct.
now.
Okay, anything else? Ready to vote? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. And the last one here, a bond resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $5,158,500 in serial bonds and notes of the County of Tompkins to pay a portion of the cost of reconstructing Falls Road Bridge located within the county. Who's going to move that? Lee, seconded by Rich. Discussion on this one. We do want to have a bridge over on Falls Road there. So, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Mike, if we could just go back for 1 second to the
Sure.
prior resolution. Why did the number change from 9.3 million to 1.7?
So on the PAR forms, every year from last year projected out 5 years, that totals the 9.3 million. So it was just picked up, the wrong number was picked up off the PAR form.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lee, thanks for hanging out for doing the resolution. You're welcome to stay as long as you want, obviously.
Thank you. I apologize. I do have to leave early and sometime make a trip to Westchester County in the next day. So it's
all right.
A tough week all of a sudden. Tougher week all of a sudden. Thank you.
We appreciate your being here.
Safe travels.
Safe travels, yeah.
Lisa, we're up to you.
Morning, Mike. We've been seeing a lot of each other. I don't have much new to report. Just regarding where we are standing with the budget, I will note that we have, I've counted just a little over $1 million added to the budget with in county staffing under one-time and multi-year funding, which will be something to consider in years to come as a potential deferred property tax increase. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of where we stand with the as a result of the voting meetings.
Okay. Anything you'd like to talk to Lisa about this morning?
I guess I have a more general question. It seems like we ended our meeting Tuesday evening mercifully going home, but with unfinished business. And do we have a sort of structure of how we address the remaining questions that I think some of the legislators still have?
Well, as you recall, Rich, I offered another meeting, and the majority did not want to have another meeting. So that was the thought of if people had other questions they wanted to review.
Would it make sense, Mike, do you think, to reach out and to try to poll the legislators to get their questions so that we could figure out what yet we need to decide or try to decide? Sorry.
I guess I would say, to what end at this point? We have a proposed resolution that can be obviously amended. The resolution that was brought forth to use a substantially large number from the fund balance did not pass. Are you saying that they want to revisit that, or what are we thinking about?
Well, one resolution with a pretty dramatic change in the levy didn't pass, but I don't think that was the only one in the heads of the legislators, at least one legislator. And I think Mike Sigler had a question about bringing up another issue when we had full attendance at our meetings. And I don't know what else might be proposed. But if you polled, the purpose of it would be to try to figure out how much more is there out there that legislators feel they need to try to do on this budget before we move forward. And I think it makes sense to do it before the public hearing, so the public has the greatest sense of where we're going to arrive.
I don't have any problem with polling and asking about questions. Mike, what I have a problem about is where do we get together and discuss them? I mean,
well, I think, yeah.
When the resolution is brought up, or do we have a different meeting? What are we going to do?
I would suggest it might be possible to tag on to our legislative meeting next Tuesday at the end. And it's not optimal, but open up EBC for a short period of time while everybody's there and make sure we've answered our questions, we've finished our homework.
Donna.
I don't think that's a bad idea, Rich, but I think that if we wanted to do an EBC, we'd have to give a 1-week notice, and we've missed that time frame.
It's not hard and fast, right? I mean, that's the best practice, but here we are. And I don't know that we're going to have another legislative meeting. I don't want to propose that we have a special legislative meeting. Or
I also had some questions. One of them was attendance. And, you know, I think all of us, I mean, this is the most important part of our job by far. Every single year is making these decisions. And we've had very good attendance. However, if and when people are not at these voting meetings, it takes us 3 steps back. If you say, I'm sorry, I wasn't there for a vote, can we re-vote? Because it means the good work that the people that were there that voted is not recognized. And it's quite honestly a waste of everyone's time. And so, you know, I question being able to bring back, you know, I was not there for 2 votes because my internet pooped out. And so, you know, if we did that for every single person that wasn't there for a vote, we'd never finish this budget. So I would first off ask, like, what are we going to do about that? The second thing is it feels like there are some people that have some lingering OTRs that they're going to bring forth in the last minute. And while I know we're able to do that, I find it really disrespectful to legislators, and I also find it disrespectful to our staff, because our staff's trying to do the best job that they can do with the numbers they have. And making it a surprise at the end of the day is really disrespectful, and it can cause our staff to have errors. They're putting out the best numbers they know. The third thing is that I think it's important for us to see the what ifs. What if we vote down a budget? What does that look like? We're probably could go back to Lisa's original budget with 5% cuts. And I think just like we saw with our school budget, here in the city of Ithaca, it has absolutely been devastating for the kids, for the teachers, for everyone. And so, I mean, I will do everything in my power for that not to happen, because I think that would be tragic.
Rich?
Yeah, Shauna, you raised some good points. I mean, I think that's part of the reason I say do this as fast as possible. There really is urgency here. If we don't have a platform to answer these issues, they will come up. Some of the legislators will push these through, and I agree with you. It's not just disrespectful, it's bad process. And doing it in an organized way, I would far prefer. And I know you all know this, but I would like to put it on the record that my class at Cornell was scheduled before EBC meetings were scheduled, and for some reason they put me late afternoon, and I will never do that again. But I was consistently screaming in here right at the beginning of the meeting and missing a little bit, and I really didn't want to do that. But and Sean, I agree with you as to your point about attendance. You know, it's up to the legislators to get here, and if they're not here, that's kind of their issue. The one matter raised by a legislator, though, was decided on a 7-6 vote, and it's a lot of money. And it's a new program, effectively almost a new department in our county. So a pretty big decision. So I can understand why this person would say, you know, I think it's important my voice is heard. Not ideal, but to just say, well, live with it, that's harder, because I believe it was target money too, right? Yeah.
Lee?
Well, I think Shauna's kind of hit on it. It's the what ifs, and that was my discomfort the other night in moving ahead without the further meeting. It's not so much opening the process back up or adding more over targets. It's really about what are the ramifications of this vote in the what ifs scenarios. And I'm still struggling a little bit with the final text, but there's a lot of good stuff in there too. So I don't object to the further conversation in some manner, and I think it will make some people a bit more comfortable with where we've ended up.
It seems to me then that we ought to send out this poll. Are there unresolved questions that you want to ask, and actually do it at a legislative meeting? You know, because I don't think we can do another EBC meeting without notice. We can ask Katrina and Brittany that, but don't want to run afoul of what we're supposed to do. So, Lisa?
Mike, if I would ask if you're sending out a poll, and if there are unresolved questions where we could provide any kind of analysis ahead of time, we'd be glad to do that. That offer always stands, but it's easier for us to kind of run numbers to answer people's questions so that we can come prepared to.
And thank you, that's great. Perhaps you and Brittany could work out an email to send out that
sure
says this, and maybe you want to work on it too?
It's Norma. I've tried to raise my hand.
Hi, Norma. I didn't see you. Sorry.
No worries. I know you're not.
It's good to holler out.
Yep, that's what I figured. So in this case, though, it might be, if you all are okay with it, it might be better for us to just send that poll out one more time and say, hey, you know, the form that we sent out before, if you all have amendments or questions or things, because if we can use one format, that might be easier for us at county administration. Sorry?
I'm just thinking about that. I don't know if we really want to open it up for more OTRs or more amendments that way.
Well, they're coming.
We can, and we can change the format, but it would just to collect it in one place rather than having multiple emails. It's just an easier way for us to track it coming into one format, but we'll do whatever you all want to do. It's just a suggestion. Well, we can certainly modify that form
I'm hearing,
to collect the data that way.
I've got some consternation, but Rich thinks it's okay, and so I guess I would rely on administration to do a good job here, and I'm sure you will. And if that's the way to do it, to simply send out the form, I guess that's the way we do it. Is that okay? All right. Thank you for doing that. Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, just I think it's perfectly appropriate to kind of blame us, say this is arising out of a discussion at the BCP, and the issue was addressing urgency and doing it in a structured process rather than a free-for-all. And with that in mind, I would give you a heads up that my two questions that I'd like to get information on, Lisa, would be if we went to a levy of 2.5% and a levy of 3%, what that would cost. I did a rough calculation on the numbers that were there the other night, and I thought it was 155 to get to 3%, but that would be helpful to me, because I'd like to ask my colleagues about that.
Sure.
So that's a question that could be answered without putting anything forward unless you choose later to do that, right?
Right. I mean, I'm telegraphing, but it would be a budget amendment too.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. I guess that's how we proceed with that. Thanks, Rich, for raising the issue.
Well, sorry, Mike.
We really appreciate it. Okay, anything else for Lisa? Let's go to Lori, Director of Finance.
I don't have anything today, thank you.
Right. Then we go to Ruby, our Human Resources Commissioner. Good morning. She handed out goodies this morning. Thank you. Healthy snacks.
Ruby, can you use your microphone? You grabbed the light. I've done that before too, it's okay.
Interesting. Okay, there we go. Maybe I do need that chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay, just one announcement from me, and then Larry Workman is on the screen. Open enrollment begins October 15th through November 15th. That's the time for all employees or everyone who's on the health plan to make any changes to their health coverage, to get in the paperwork for the opt-out for the health coverage, changes to the FSAs. That's during open enrollment from October 15th through November 15th. And the numbers are coming from Larry.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Larry.
I have the lingering cough that seems to be infatuated with me, so I chose to be over here today. Staff totals, we have 797 county staff with 301 election workers and 100 JTPAs. That's the Job Training Partnership Act youth. I know last month there was some questions around with all of those numbers. Taking a snapshot of September 30th, there were 897 staff on the books. So all those other numbers are staff that are coming and going throughout the month. Recruitment, posted 36 new jobs in September. We have 84 total on our vacancy page. Outreach was more job fairs, community networking, and also have paid for a proactive resume search through Indeed. Now that the county administrator search is wrapped up, it gives me a little time to do that. Applications for the month were 365. We posted 5 civil service tests. Had 65 people apply. 1 test was given with 16 people in attendance. We onboarded 12 new staff for our departments, offboarded 2. Benefits was 12 signed up for medical, 6 signed up for dental, 2 for vision, 2 for the FSA. And our leaves is for the month was 31 disability leave requests, 15 cancer screening, 4 bereavement, 1 jury, and COVID was still at 29 for the month. Staff trainings, so we did start the Supervising for Success with TC3 Biz. We have gone through a couple of sessions there. It seems to be getting some good feedback on that, and that'll continue through to about the end of the year.
Okay, questions? Sounds like you've been busy.
Always.
Always.
I wanted to ask a question, but I don't want you to respond if I'm getting into something that has to do with an employee personal, but we announced a hire for county administrator. And I know it had been our hope that the county administrator would be here at the end of the year, the new county administrator, to have some overlap with the current county administrator. And I thought in the interview process that was likely to happen. I wondered what made it change to January 6th before the, I think the 6th or whatever day it was in January, before the new person will be able to come on board.
We can talk about that after.
Okay, then we'll talk about it later then. I just wanted to ask. Okay, anything else for Ruby? I wanted to mention that we had discussion during the EBC meetings about should we be doing a different kind of budgeting, particularly should we be doing a zero-based budgeting for our departments, something that we talked about a lot of years ago, particularly I think during when we had the Great Recession, and we had to ask for zero increases in the proposals from the departments. If that was something that the group wanted to explore, I think we need to get some information on what the ramifications of that might be, and to take the pulse of administration and department heads and others, and see whether that might be something we could do. It seems if we did that, I don't think we'd have to do so many OTRs, but I might be wrong with that. So I just kind of wanted to raise that and ask the group, is that something you'd like to move ahead to explore? Shauna.
I would love to get some more information about what that would look like. I also think that if we're going to do it, it would make sense to do it next year as we have an experienced legislature. The following year, we could have many new people, and that in and of itself is going to be a struggle to get new people on board. My understanding is that with the zero-based foundation that we could in fact have way more OTRs, because if you're starting out at zero, legislators are going to probably add many OTRs. So it could be a very long process.
Rich?
Yeah, and I think we'd have to change the name from OTR to something else because there would be no target. You're starting at zero, right? So our whole nomenclature would have to change. But I'm perfectly happy having that conversation, certainly if I'm on the budget committee next year, where I think a real focus should be either separately or in addition is on helping understand what the finance department is doing to build its capability. We've added software, we've added headcount, which I think were the right decisions, but we've also identified some real challenges in making sure that we're getting real-time information into our system so that we can do financial projections in a better way. And that, I think, would help us dramatically. Overall, I'm satisfied that we do a thorough budget look. It's painful. We do eat too much candy, and we should address that issue, but I think we have a budget process that helps us really get to well thought out answers, whether we like them or not. But we certainly see where we're spending money and do things on it. I say that as to all the new spending. There are things we could do to look at existing spending better. I think we did some of that this year. But if I was doing priorities, I'd say zero-based budgeting would come second to making sure our processes for financial reporting to the finance department are streamlined. Thanks.
And that's the other issue that I'm wondering if we want to talk about at this, at future meetings, and that is what we need to do to help finance with this issue of purchasing and invoices and all of that, so that we can help make it smoother so that they can do better projections for us in the future. And I'd like to put that on the agenda to discuss maybe at the next meeting and just see what we ought to be doing, whether it's something we need to move ahead with. Lisa.
I agree, they go hand in hand. I wanted to speak to the revisiting the budgeting aspect. And I think that a conversation would be healthy and helpful to have, perhaps in conjunction with looking at the fiscal policy, which establishes that we're doing a target-based budgeting. And the timing of it, even though I know we're all suffering from fatigue for the 2025 budget process, we might want to start those conversations sooner rather than later, because once we get into 2025 itself, in that first quarter, county administration is already preparing for the budget retreat and gearing up with whatever procedure we're going to use. We would need to think about that and plan for that well in advance of that April budget retreat.
I wonder if there would be anyone that we could have come talk to us about zero-based budgeting, that maybe they do it somewhere. And I just don't know the answer to that question, but it might be something that they could give us a tutorial on.
Good idea.
Could look into that.
Would you?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And just for definitional, my understanding when I hear zero-based budgeting is that you started, none of the departments have any money, and they have to build a budget saying, I want to spend on this and this and this. And so it's from the ground up. That's why you...
It might require heavier work on the budgets at the committees before it comes to the full legislature. I don't know. But that's... There was a time when we first started the EBC meetings that we did presentations at all the committees before the EBC, so we had double presentations on everything. If you think the budget process is complicated now, it was more complicated before.
You know, one other comment, if I might, it might not be the year to do it if we've got a new county administrator walking in to turn our budget process upside down and shake it. But I guess that person would not know our present system, so they're going to learn something.
Might be the perfect time.
And
maybe.
Perhaps the new county administrator has a different process that they could tell us about in another county. Who knows?
Is our new administrator visiting with us, coming to a meeting? This might be a question to ask.
Yeah, I think so. He's supposed to come.
To be appointed on Tuesday.
Memo to self.
Okay, that's all I have. I'm not seeing Veronica. Does there anyone have any information on Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee? Okay, guess we'll put that over. Anything else today? I think then we ought to be able to adjourn. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Mike.